The month of June is usually a flat month, most times a low month in the Nigerian stock market. Now, if you've been around for a long time, you will see a lot of bearish movement every time we get to June. Now, this is June, and we're experiencing that currently in the stock market. Well, like we promised on this live session, we'll do a general overview of what is happening in the stock market. What are the triggers? And also, like smart investors usually do, when there is a lot of panic and uncertainty in the market, they look for a very nice position to take a position in any business, and they become millionaires after that session. So that's what we're doing here today. And like as usual, I'm here with my stock market analyst, the one who sleeps on the chart. I always say this oftentimes. He actually looks at the fundamental on a daily basis. Please welcome Mr. Kanem. Welcome again to Clockwise Live.
Thank you very much.
You know that we're having a very beautiful conversation prior to this particular session. You know, a few days ago we're celebrating 59% year to date in the Nigerian stock market, and today we are actually talking about 57%. So let's do a general overview of what is actually going on in the stock market currently, like live.
Okay, so thank you. So here is, today has been, if you look at for the past 3 days,
so many red,
for the past 3 days, we've been closing lower on the all-share index.
Yeah.
And that's because we had mentioned, and we keep on mentioning every time, investors are taking profits. Investors are taking profits for 2 reasons. Number one, investors need to take profit because whatever gains you make, if you don't take profits, it's not your money.
It's not your money.
You know, that's one. Number two, for portfolio rebalancing. We've seen some of the assets that have done 70%, 80% on the Nigerian exchange group, and that could give some outsized position in terms of people's portfolios, and that introduces what we call concentration risk. So investors will always want, professional portfolio managers will always want to rebalance portfolios by taking profits. And then of course we know that very
sell-offs. Are they sell-offs?
Yeah, of course, when you take profits
because of Dangote.
Yeah, of course, Dangote listing too. People are trying to get some resources to be able to prepare for the Dangote listing.
All right, now before you actually proceed, now let's look at it sector by sector. Now let's look at the sectoral effect of what is going on now.
Okay.
Now, we'll start from the full gas. Now because the bank have been one of the major pillars of the stock market year to date, but I feel they are the most hit when it comes to this particular point. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. So for the full guys, we are going to look at a few of them now. If you look at, for instance, let's look at the likes of Face Holdco.
Okay.
Face Holdco, you can see
a lot of red.
Yeah, it closed very sharply lower, and the reason is because there are 2 reasons. Number one, you know that Face Bank is looking to issue some shares directly to the public, and investors feel a lot of dilution coming. So it's better to sell off now and maybe take a position when the offer comes. So most times when banks gives public offers, they give at a price that is lower than the current trading price. So I mean, if I think about it, if I hold any position in First Bank, First Holdco, why don't I sell it and wait for the public offer? And
so we're expecting price to be where?
So we're expecting price to come down to this consolidation. You can see there's been this consolidation for a very long time.
So we're talking about 50?
Yeah, around 50 or there, about 50, between 50 and 52. And then we expect there's a lot of liquidity resting here. I mean, from the technical standpoint, a lot of liquidity. So if the price action might come in, sweep this sell side liquidity, and then bounce off. So we're
expecting a buy from here.
Yeah. So like we always say, if a first buy, some people would have put a buy here, but the reason why some people would have put at 60. But the reason why this 60 did not hold is this, because if you look at this is a daily candle, and the daily candle did not close. If you look at it, did not close. You need the daily candle to close perfectly above this week before you can actually say that this is a strong low. So of course that's why the strong low had to be taken out. But you're looking at this too to take a position here. Of course, like we say, always ladder in your entries, because I mean, First Holdco, we know they did not announce any because of the payment charges. So if there's a turnaround and then first school announces that they will start paying dividends, we could see this a very serious turnaround. That's why I would want to put my limit order here at let's see, at
50.
Yeah, I would like to put at 50. You know, it can get as low as 40. I mean, 50, because I mean there might be some kind of slippage. So 50 could be a point where you could put in your limit order, your buy limit
for first
hold go. So I mean the market has been the sell-off has been quite huge, and for those people who entered into first hold go, I mean, it provides an opportunity for you to buy. This is for me, it's a buying opportunity, because First Holdco is one of the tier 1 banks.
Let's look at their fundamentals now.
So, First Holdco, one of the challenges that First Holdco has had, which Access Bank also has, is the payment charge. The payment charge, and you know that in Nigeria, most investors are dividend chasers. They chase dividends a lot. So, once you say you're not paying dividends, then they're out of the market. So, and again, one of the things that also saves is if you announce your qualification date, investors will rush in to buy before that qualification date. But I mean, there's nothing in the horizon for Facebook, so that's why you're seeing this sell-off.
All right,
yes. So we also have UBA. So let's look at the performance of UBA. UBA is one of the fugars. If you look at UBA, you realize that the sell-off has not been that pronounced, and for a certain reason. I mean, UBA has been punished very seriously, given the fact that
investors.
They didn't announce any dividend payout, so investors have already punished the bank. If you look at the sell-off, it was quite a terrible one. So we expect some consolidation here, and then I would look to take a position somewhere along. Somewhere at 40. Yeah, 40. I would look to take $40 at 40 naira.
40 naira,
yes. I would look to take a position, my first position at 40 naira. And the reason for this is because I don't expect so much downdraft, because already the bank is already trading at less than 0.8 price to book.
Okay. So what are you expecting the points to be? What expectation do you have?
So I have an expectation. Once First Bank once UBA announces dividends, and by the way, remember that this is, if you look at this move, this is May. This is 8th of May. So if you let's look at this is like 5th of May. So this is like a 1 month chart. Okay. A 1 month price action. So if you replace this again, that takes you to July, when the banks will start announcing their second quarter earnings. So that means that you might not have so much downdraft before you have a rebound if the bank starts paying dividend. That's why it's a safe thing to ladder in your entries and target this low. You can target this low. I expect this low to be.
What high are we expecting?
I expect first the bank to actually take out this high.
That's 56.
Yes, to take out this high, because this high was printed. This decline or this dislocation happened because the bank announced they were not paying dividend, not because the bank's fundamental. I mean, this is a bank that exists in 20 countries, and if you look at what we expect to happen to the Nigerian exchange group, especially with the Dangote listing, we're talking about a market that is going to move from $116 billion to about 170 or to 100, between 170 and 180 billion dollars. What that tells you is that will catch the interest of foreign investors. Also, Nigeria is now the Nigerian market is now on the FTSE Russell Frontier Market list. What that tells you is that international investors will come into the country. They will want a bank that exists across the African continent, so they can move funds around very, very easily. So, and first, UBA, is well positioned for that. So, you cannot as much as discount UBA so much, because I mean, it's a turnaround.
So, look at GT Bank.
Then the GT Bank. So, the next one is GT Bank or GT Co. So, GT Co here.
Okay.
I mean, this is a bank that has done very well. I remember, I mean, first entry was around 43 naira, but I mean, we ran all the way through to 150, almost 157 naira.
Okay.
But it has come down all the way down to, as investors are heavily taking profit on this name. I mean, if you look at it, from 43 naira last year to 100, that is more than
3x.
almost a 4x
Yes.
on that investment. What that tells you is literally a 4x on that investment. Profit. So taking profit is to rebalance portfolios. Could actually take you up north of between 40 and 50% of your portfolio, which reduces concentration risk. So the bank has corrected, and I expect it to fill out this institutional I expect it to get all the way to this demand zone. Yes. But again, remember that this bank is also going to perform very well, and they have already declared interim dividends. So what that tells you is that there's a very high likelihood that this bank, we are going to get some pay.
So what will be your entry point?
So I'm not putting an entry point. My ultimate entry point is here. Is at this low of 100 naira.
Okay.
But I'm also expecting to catch this gap, which is at 117 naira. Yes.
Dollar cost averaging will be the best thing to do here.
The dollar cost averaging will be the best thing to do here, and of course you can do that by, and then also have dry powder to deploy at this point, because I expect this is the point. If you look at the kind of pushback that we had here, shows that investors will not, or the buyers, the buyers will not allow the price to go.
Are we going to see an upside from July?
Already, any bank that pays dividends is investors' delight. So I expect it. This is, for me, is a correction. It's a buying opportunity, actually. If you look at it from the weekly, so you can see very clearly what this is. So it got rejected here, and it's pulling down all the way. You can see, I'm happy. If you look at it in the weekly, you see that this was such a pin bar, meaning that there was a lot of demand here. This particular demand zone is very, very high, because it was origin where you had a break, and not just a break, but a break of structure, because it closed above the previous high. So we expect this to be very, very strong candle where you can actually put in. And if you look at 100, is actually where the bottom of this candle is. So you can actually even ladder your entries in, ultimately targeting 100.
Let's look at what we are watching for you. Access Bank.
Access Bank, okay. So I mean, Access Bank, if you look at this,
but they are not badly hit.
Access Bank is not badly hit, and the reason is because if you look at,
they're already on the floor. They're already down.
When you are down,
there's nowhere to go to again.
There's no fear. If you look at it on the weekly, it's barely moved.
Okay.
But let's go to the daily. If you go to the daily, then you observe something very interesting. It actually, is literally flat, and that is because Access Bank, the last offer they did was at 20, and if you look at how 20 has 20 has held very, very seriously. If you look at this, 20 has held, because I mean, think about it. Investors that bought at 20 naira per share would not really want to sell, because even at this 24 naira per share, if you sell, I mean, you're going to still pay fees. So I
don't expect Access Bank to go below this.
It can go. My ultimate limit, I have a limit orders up to 20 actually.
Would they say at 2, or would they say at?
I have limit orders till 20. I have a lot of limit orders between 22 and 20, because I believe that, I mean, if they are not able to handle impairment charges for Access Bank is 523 billion naira, and that might not be written off in just a quarter. So we could straight to the next quarter. I mean, what I mean by that, it could straight to the second quarter. I mean, that was announced in the first quarter. It could straight to the second quarter, and if that happens, what that means is you can still have some more downward pressure.
You've spoken about Access Bank a couple of times, several times, with a lot of confidence. Now, I want to show us practically, where are you expecting Access Bank to go to?
Access Bank I can't even estimate how much. I mean, I know you would look at this. This is a very
that's what I saw. That's what I saw.
Yes, but I mean, technicals, if you look at, especially for banks like this, you don't just rely just on technicals, but you look at fundamentals too. Access Bank is, for me, is going to be a very serious, it's a value opportunity. That's because Access Bank is the largest bank in terms of asset in Nigeria, sits on 52 trillion. You know what that means? It means that they have, so much to loan out. If you look at in the last earnings call, look at their non-interest. Even the non-interest income was still very high. It grew by more than 19%. If you look at even the interest income, 44%. So that tells you that the bank, is actually still very positioned. Even when you take out the 523 billion naira in payment charges, the bank still sat on over 272 billion naira in profit after tax. So
now, for what you're saying, they are strongly overvalued. They're undervalued.
I mean, for this bank, this bank is trading at 0.3.
I've seen that rejection
price. I've seen it actually, but I'm looking at the fundamentals.
Okay.
This bank is trading at 0.3 price to book. That is the trading. That is how a distressed bank trades, not a Fugas. So if a Fugas is trading like a distressed bank, a Fugas is still sitting on that kind of asset base. A Fugas is still having the kind of non-interest income that we saw. That means, and of course the interest income too, that means that bank is a value opportunity. The only thing that Access Bank needs to deal with at this point is to handle these bad loans, so that for the second quarter will not have such impairment charges coming. Because I mean, if you have such impairment charges for banks, depositors, customer deposit gets more priority than shareholder value or shareholder returns. That's why you saw nothing was. Access Bank did not even declare anything in terms of dividend payment. So that's why you see it being suffered. I mean, investors in Nigeria keep immediately punish any bank that doesn't give them what to go home with. So I mean, that's why you're seeing this price action. But with the things I've told you, I am very certain that Access Bank is still going to bounce back.
Right, now, before we move to the oil sector, let's look at Zenith Bank.
Okay.
Let's look at Zenith Bank.
So Zenith Bank, I mean, Zenith Bank has been on a tier. At a point, it was already up 75% year to date.
And we're actually shouting.
People were like, when will this Zenith Bank come down so we can actually
it is down now.
Invest? So it is down, but something very interesting. If you see,
I see the rejection.
Yes, but it's been trading. Look at this. It's been trading in this range for a very long time. It got up to this range because of the rumor that Zenith Bank was going to be listed on the London Stock Exchange. And again, if you look at Zenith Bank, is arguably the best managed bank in terms of balance sheet discipline.
Okay.
So that is what investors want to see, because number one, the investors know that if you have to deal with a lot of impairment charges, it will take off so much that you can't even pay dividends. So Zenith Bank is even well positioned to reward investors. That's why you see, even when it went down this as low as this, it still rallied to close almost in positive territory. So, but if you look at this Zenith Bank itself, you realize that Zenith Bank has not suffered the kind of it's not been battle tested as much as Access Bank has been. So it's also an opportunity for me. I have a few limited orders.
So if you're a newbie, what would be your entry point?
There are some things. If I'm a newbie, I would target I would target this. So this is a high that has not been taken out. Look at this high has not been taken out. So if you look at it, this high has not been taken out.
That's 136.
136. So what that tells me is I always like to go to where the origin of that high was, and guess where the origin was? Look at this. Sorry. So look at this. This is the origin. So you are looking at this 99 and sub.
Okay.
Sub 99. Okay. So you might, but for a beginner, you might want to enter first of all where the last resistance was overtaken, the flip zone, and then also look at where the origin of the move.
Okay, that's 112 and around 90
and around 95 naira per share.
Right.
But Zenith Bank is actually a good name that
I think they accommodated the shock so well.
Any day, anytime, and that's because investors. I say you have become a darling of investors
because they are not paying dividends. All right. Okay. Now let's move to the oil stocks.
So the oil stocks have been. I mean, oil stocks are not so much beaten up at this time because if you look at what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, we are still not settled yet. So if you look at the name like Seplat, Seplat is still up there. So if you look at Seplat has been trading along this for a very long time. Let us pull the weekly so you appreciate it.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
So look at this. We have not had that correction that we're looking for. And then if you look at very close to
11,486 as at today.
Yes.
As at this point.
That's at this point. Because I mean, if gas now, I told you in a previous podcast that we are going to see, because the Strait of Hormuz also controls more than a quarter of the gas supply around the world. Gas now is selling at retail is selling at 2,000 naira per kilo. Yes, selling at 2,000 naira per kilo. So we are already seeing some of the fallout. It was actually fuel that moved all the way from 1,050 to now 1,400 naira at the pump. Now the gas has followed. We are going to see, but my point is, this is going to bring a lot of inflationary pressure, on commodities, and so I'm expecting by the time we're getting the next PCE or the next CPI, the inflation might have ticked up.
Do you also believe that Seplat is overvalued?
Seplat for me is not overvalued. I mean, you can look at this and you think Seplat is not overvalued, and the reason is because Seplat has a lot of things going to it. It is not. If you compare Seplat with other companies, like what would you talk about Saudi Aramco and other companies that are major exploration and production companies, its valuation is extremely cheap.
Because if we hinge the success of Seplat on the Strait of Hormuz, and somebody gets in at this point, and there's a change tomorrow, don't you think that it will be very badly?
So, like I said, like we always say on this channel, you don't want to put in everything here. Yes, you always want to. If you choose to enter at this point, which I like I told you, I'm not entering at this point. I don't want to invest in an Empire State Building kind of chat. So I wouldn't want to enter. But let me show you another name, which I had said that any correction in Aradel was a buying opportunity. So watch this. If you look at Aradel, Aradel has performed very well, very, very well. So look at. It actually corrected a little bit.
And you said this. You said
yes, I had said any correction in Aradel is a buying opportunity as far as the situation in the Strait of Hormuz persists. And you have seen that it's going back up now.
At 1,933.
It had gone down all the way down to 1,755.
A good point to buy.
Yeah, a good point to buy. So now, if you look at this. If you look at it, that is already a 5.33% appreciation in terms of price action.
Okay.
So, Aradel is also a very good name that you could look out for. But I mean, most of these are very, very kind of the price chart is already. So I still have limit orders because I know that ultimately things will be resolved, and I still have a limit order at this because. This is where this particular price action, this is the origin, and this has not been tested before. Okay. This low has not been tested. Even this other low has not been taken before at 680. Has not been taken before. This has.
Are you expecting a bearish movement? I'm
expecting a bearish movement because the reality is that if anything happens and the price of crude collapses, then some investors will sell out of this. Apart from this, also with the planned Dangote listing, this is an easy rotation. You can rotate out of Aradel and then go into Dangote. So, but another thing that people don't really really monitor, I had said something. I said the price of fuel and gas are going up. You know what that means? It's going to actually increase inflationary pressure. CPI and PCE, which is what the CB and the Monetary Policy Committee of the CB looks at. And so we were expecting down towards the end of the year for some rate cuts. But of course, you know that the last MPC meeting there was no rate cut. It isn't introduces the possibility of a rate hike, brings it back to the table. If there's a rate hike, of course, you know that makes bonds more attractive, and so investors might dump some of these assets in favor of bonds. So you have to also monitor for inflation and see what happens in the bond market, because that could affect this.
All right, let's look at what is happening to Dangote Cement, and also one of the defensive we talked about, like Champion Breweries and the rest of it.
Okay, so Dangote, Dangote Cement, Dansem. Okay, so Dangote Cement, sorry. So, okay, so Dangote Cement itself is let's see. Yes. So you can see that Dangote Cement has held up here very, very strong.
1,180.
1,180, just like for most of these companies, they are more like for me, they are more like a continental infrastructure play.
Okay.
So it is not just
solely on the factors
factors that you have around here. So most of these companies are reason. I remember very well that we called this name around somewhere around here.
Yeah. I remember.
Somewhere around here. And I've not sold Dangote Cement at all. Not even a single share of Dangote Cement. I've not sold anything at all. I'm sitting on I still have my price target for Dangote Cement. I'm looking at getting it up to 2,000. But from 1,518, I might start taking some profits off the table. Okay. But I mean, this for me is a very strong play, and I told you the reason why Dangote is so strong is because they have pricing power. You just have to buy Dangote, and then another one that is very close I hear is the Boa Cement.
Boa Cement,
Boa Cement. Boa Cement has also benefited so much from the infrastructure build out across the country. I mean, Boa Cement has performed very well. They also have very strong pricing power.
But there's a strong rejection there.
I mean, you can't. This is not as strong. This is a correction. This is basically profit taking. Yeah, because I mean, what has this done? It has not even as much as taken out this candle. It's not even up to 50% of this candle. So for me, it is just simply profit taking. Industrials have been performing very well.
Okay.
Industrials have been performing very well, but of course we need more broadening out for these industrials. Then what I would also want to look at is consumables, and a quick name I would want to talk about would be Guinness.
Yes, yeah.
Because Guinness did a very impressive numbers Guinness did very impressive numbers last year. And I'm still expecting it did this actually got Guinness to 398% in 2025, and then it has been stuck to this for a while. But I'm also looking at the fact that I'm also looking at the fact that given the fact that if you look at Nigerian breweries have actually had some correction. If you look at this rejection,
would this be a very good buying opportunity?
So I am actually looking. If you look at, I have some limit orders across, but I also think that Nigerian breweries and Guinness will do well because of the World Cup that is starting in the next month. I think this month actually. So Nigerian breweries. So we are expecting some good earnings for second quarter for this. But of course, you know that for me, Guinness needs to come down. I mean, it's posted literally 400% last year. Of course, I expect investors to continue to take profits and then give us buying opportunities down the line. But I hold both of them, both Nigerian breweries and Guinness, in this regard. So these are the lead when you talk about consumables. These are some of the lead names, and if you look at this, has come back to the consolidation that we've had, because Guinness, Nigerian breweries also suffered the challenge, the FX liquidity challenge, but which is about to clear off, and that's why you're not seeing this kind of a very sharp drawdown. Guinness, you can look at taking, of course, this was rejected, but if you look at this, let me see, there's something I want to look at. So this particular candle closed below. Let me look at on the daily. Do we have something good on the daily? Sorry. So if you look at this candle takes some positions at 70 naira per share.
You think has affected the Nigerian Stock Exchange so positively that we are seeing such a mighty rally? It's unprecedented.
So I think the rally is investors trying to price in the fact that the Nigerian stock market is back on the FTSE Russell Frontier Market Index. And the reason is because we are expecting up to at least $1 billion to come into the market.
Okay.
You know, most times this actually introduces deep liquidity. Market is as good as the liquidity that you have. I mean, there are some of these stocks that you cannot really invest so much in them, because if you try to, let's say a market that is worth just maybe 1 billion naira, 1 billion naira, if you come in with 100 million, you can actually push prices, you can move the market. So investors don't want, they want very, very liquid market. So as more foreign portfolio investors come into the market, we also see Dangote listing. So investors are beginning to price in, the market actually runs ahead of itself. They are beginning to price in the liquidity that will come into the market, and that will also make the market to be attractive. S&P 500 has taken the market from being negative to be positive. These are indicators. There are a number of portfolio managers, pension funds, institutional. Like I told them, the way the market works is any score. The way the market works is any score that investors want to go ahead, play ahead, gain, take share in the gains of the
listings of the listing. Both Nigerian mass stock market and the London stock market. Now, both Nigerian mass stock market and the London stock market. Now, as an analyst, how does this affect liquidity, and also
is looking for $5 billion. $5 billion as a whole is 116 billion. Yeah. So if you look at what Dangote is looking for, a way of doing it is to tap into foreign capital. Okay. We have over $7 trillion sitting away in money market funds. Why don't you tap? You can just tap into that, and these money market funds are sitting offshore. So why don't you? By listing outside the Nigerian stock market or exchange group, you are also tapping into this opportunity that exists offshore. So that is what Dangote is doing. And if you look at some of these names like GTCO is very successful because it's also listed in the London Stock Exchange. So you have investors piling in from both in the NGX and of course the London Stock Exchange.
All right, now before you go, I'd like us to actually have a particular conversation that has to revolve around newbies, because you see, because of the liquidity and the growth of the Nigerian stock market, having a lot of people coming in now, a lot of new people want to come in, they want to participate. Now, if you are to start investing today, let's assume you are a newbie, what are the things you should look out for, and what are the things you're going to do?
So first of all, I will look out for,
bearing in mind that the market is in a bearish position now.
I still won't call it bearish position. I think it's basically profit taking. So we're still in the bull market, very consolidated bull. I mean, you can't. There are no indices here that we've seen that silver should. None of we have not even crossed any territory that. I mean, I'm even happy that now we have introduced. We now have a 10% cap or 10% ceiling. So that means that. There's something we call circuit breakers. So if the market goes above 10%, or below 10%, then the circuit breaker goes off. So we are not in a bearish territory at all. So, but as a newbie, one of the things, and this is one of the mistakes that newbies do, is that jumping into hype. You don't jump into hype. That's why you saw when those prices were going very high, I said this is not a good time to buy. The good time to buy is when there's a serious dislocation. Market dislocation means the name is the fundamentals are intact, but the price action doesn't match the fundamentals.
Okay.
That's when you buy. But if you're a newbie and you cannot really you can't read company reports on all of that, why don't you just go for the broad market index? Like we said, if you are investing in the broad market, you'll still be up over 50% if you are invested just in the broad market index. So why don't you do that? Alternatively, you can pick some of those, invest across the focus, because the tier 1 banks, these are banks that historically pay in dividends. So yes, they might suffer a temporary dislocation, but for the most part, they always bounce back. And when they bounce back, especially for those ones like Access and UBA that have been seriously punished. Of course, now First World has joined, but those names have been seriously punished.
Access have been there. Corporate punishment.
But for those names that have been punished, you can if you
can't mention Access. What's the problem?
No, I just mentioned Access.
Already on the floor.
Listen. I mentioned Access and UBA as some names, just an example of names in tier 1 banks that have been seriously punished. There is a lot of upside to these names when they recover, and most of these tier 1 banks almost always recover because investors are looking at those names. Investors are looking at those names, and then that's one. The second thing you want to think about just before I wrap up is liquidity. I can't say it enough. Penny stocks, you want to rush into penny stocks, I mean, good luck to you. Because it's not just about entering a position, it's about selling that position
when you need it.
When you need it. And then if you enter into a market that is not liquid, then chances are that you could sell at 20 naira per share, but by the time the trade executes, you are looking at 10 naira, 11 naira per share. And let's say you bought at 10 naira per share, and you already told yourself, oh, I'm already up 100%. But by the time you sell, it's 15 naira per share. What that means is that you're only gaining 5 naira per share.
I think we had that kind of situation.
Yeah, we had that kind of situation.
Yes, somebody was on the comment section.
Yes, and then added to that, you are also going to pay fees to the platform. If you are using a loan, an investment app, for the most part, I think their fees is about 1.4% really. So if you look at it in total, you realize that you want to enter into a market that is very liquid. And for a starter in the Nigerian stock market, the Fugas is where you go to. The Fugas is where the attention of investors are, and the Fugas are names that will almost always bounce back. We leave the tier 1, the tier 2 and tier 3 banks alone, because you might not be able to monitor to know when these banks are actually in the deep base for you to exit as.
All right. So I think we can leave it there for today, and we still put our eyes on the market till the close of market on Friday. Thank you for coming, and we'll do this again. Thank you for joining us. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and put a notification bell on this channel of the amazing content we bring. I will be doing this often to ensure that we keep you abreast, up to speed with all the happenings in the Nigerian stock market. We are here to show you every bullish and bearish move. My name is Providence. I'll see you again.